Hey vinyl lovers, welcome back to the channel because today I am sharing with you 10 essential tips for record collecting, sharing advice that I wish someone would have shared with me when I first started collecting. So stick around for the last tip as well because man, I'm going to tell you now, it's a game changer. Let's jump in. The first tip is buy records you love, and I really mean that. Only buy the records you love. It is so easy to get caught up in collecting for the collecting's sake. You got folks out there that want to buy all these different variants of different pressings of records because they want to collect them all, and they'll go out and they'll spend all this money on buying the green vinyl, the purple vinyl, the spaghetti vinyl, all these different types of vinyl. And ultimately, in the end of the day, why are they doing this? Well, because they feel like they're going to be collectible or they feel like they're going to be worth money. And that's the wrong way of collecting records. If you're a fan of the artist and you're passionate about the album, having variations is fine, but just collecting records because you think they're going to be worth something because it's a limited edition, it's limited to 300 or it's limited to 500 or 2,000 or whatever the case is, it's really the wrong way to go about it. The other thing is that honestly, there's every record that comes out anymore seems to be limited in some capacity. It's a limited press, it's a limited color, limited artwork, limited bonus track, limited this, limited that. What seems to be really, honestly, the limited record these days is the standard black record, which most of the time sounds better than any of these color variations that you can find. The other thing is the fear of missing out hits a lot of folks that are record collecting. You fear that you're going to miss out on something, that it's not going to be available anymore, that it's not going to be pressed again. And that gets people, and you start buying records you probably wouldn't otherwise buy because you don't know if you're going to have a chance to get that particular record. And yes, it happens. You have rare records that get released and you could have bought it for $29 and they're worth $1,400 virtually the next day. But if you're buying only the records you love, the records you're going to play, you probably wouldn't sell that record anyway. So the value of that record post-acquisition shouldn't really make too much of a difference. Now, we'll get into knowing the value of your records a little bit later on, but don't buy records because you think they're going to go up in price or you feel like they might miss out. The last thing that hits a lot of record buyers, especially new buyers that are just getting into vinyl, is social media. I mean, I would tell you the fear of missing out on social media, or fear that, I don't know if it's a fear of missing out, but you get into social media and if you're in some, these Facebook groups, social media groups, Discord, those kind of things, you might see a whole bunch of people in a community talking about a record, sharing pictures of them spinning that record, and you might feel like you're missing out on that experience. You might feel like, man, everybody has this album. It's got to be good. I must get my hands on it. Listen, stream it first. I will be honest with you. I got caught up in this as well. And I'm like, man, everybody's sharing this album. I need to get my hands on it. And what do? I buy it. I spend money on it, money that I worked hard to earn. And then I go ahead and I listen to it. And it's not for me. It's either the music is not for me. It's not my style of music. Maybe I don't think the record sounds that great. I don't know. It's something I just wouldn't have bought if I was just going to a record store, independent of influence, and just was browsing through. I would have skipped it. But because I saw people talking about it on the internet, because of fear of missing out on that experience of having that record, because I felt like I wanted to belong with everybody else and be able to join in those conversations, I bought the record and regretted it. And now I'm stuck with something in my catalog that I just don't know what I want to do with now, right? I got a record in my collection that, quite frankly, I don't know if I'll spin again. So maybe I'll gift it, I don't know what I'll do. But those things happen. So here's the thing. I've stressed this a million times, but let me put a button on it. If you collect the records that you love, and it's the music that you love, it's almost like you can never find a bad pressing. Because even if it's not the most audiophile version of that record, you're still going to enjoy, love, and appreciate the music because you enjoy, love, and appreciate the artist. So if you can get less picky on what records you get, and then you can have fun getting into collecting records or variations of that record, especially if it's your favorite album. The only other last advice I'll give you is just be careful of the completionist. There's a lot of bands out there that have massive catalogs of records that not all of them are great. So just because you start buying a certain amount of records from an artist or a band doesn't mean that you should collect them all. Collect the ones that you're really going to love. Collect the ones that you're going to enjoy. Because honestly, some of those ones, man, you got some records from some bands that have 30, 40 albums in their catalog. It's hard to collect them all. It really is. And when you do find some of those pressings that haven't been reissued in a while, they're very expensive. And sometimes they haven't been reissued in a while because, quite frankly, they're not great albums. So then you're spending a lot of money just to complete a collection of an artist, and you might not even listen to the album. It's all different if you listen to the album. If you enjoy the music, go ahead. I have complete discographies in my collection of artists that I truly love, and I feel like they can't come out with a bad album. Go down that road. But just don't do it for the sake of doing it. I think your collection and yourself and your sanity and your wallet are all going to be better off. Okay, tip number 2 is to keep your records clean. Dust and dirt can damage your vinyl, it can damage your stylus, and it sure the heck impacts sound quality. I highly recommend that you invest in a good record cleaning brush at minimum. Or you should have a good record cleaning brush and you should have a good stylus cleaning brush. I recommend the kit from Groove Washer. I'll put a link in the description below because it's a great kit that gets you started with solution that's not going to leave residual residue on your records. It comes with everything you need to start cleaning your records, and it comes with a stylus brush that, quite frankly, is the one I still use a majority of the time. That is my daily stylus brush. So I'm recommending to you what I use at home. Now, I do think there's better options on actually cleaning your records than just the Groove Washer solution. I think that's good for spot cleaning, if you will, or cleaning really dirty records. But I'm a fan of ultrasonic cleaners. I've went down the Humming Guru route with ultrasonic cleaners, which is arguably the baby in the catalog. A lot of these ultrasonic cleaners are several thousands of dollars. You're talking about $1,500, $1,000 in the US for a Humming Guru, or you can get the new Nova, which has tons of features and convenience built in for a couple $100 more. I think $150 more or something like that. The reason I love the ultrasonic cleaner is because it's convenient, it's fast, it does an excellent job cleaning the records, it gets deep into the grooves of the cleaning, and it removes the static buildup as well, which attracts more debris, dust, etc. onto your records, which affects the sound quality and it can affect the life of your stylus. So I'm a big fan of cleaning all of my records, whether I buy a pre-owned record or I buy a new record, I drop it into my ultrasonic cleaner, and that's part of my routine. Now, the ultrasonic cleaner is not going to be for everyone. In fact, most of the folks watching this video, you probably are just starting out or early in your vinyl collecting journey, which is great. We're glad to have you. Welcome to the community. So maybe the Humming Guru is going to be out of your price range right now. And that's understandable. There's other options like the Spin Doctor, which is a wet cleaning device as well that is under $100. I know that might seem like a lot of money, but it's really the cost of 3 records or 2.5 records. And it's going to go ahead and give you a lot more life and a lot more enjoyment out of the hobby. So invest in some cleaning tools. And if you're still out of your reach, get yourself a good brush, clean those records before you spin them on your turntable. Trust me, your ears will thank you, and so will your vinyl. Okay, tip number 3 is to store records properly. You want to store your records vertically, just like books. You don't want to lay them flat because that can cause warping, and nobody wants that. Nobody wants you to take that new record that you love, put it on your turntable, and watch it wobble like an ocean, right? Or a drunk guy coming home. It's not what you want to see, right? The other thing is you want to keep them in a controlled environment. Don't put your records next to direct sunlight. Don't put them next to anything that generates extreme heat. That's going to cause warping. That's never fun. I also recommend that you get yourself some nice outer sleeves to protect sliding in and out of the shelf. It also helps reduce dust buildup from seeping into the record itself. And then I also recommend getting yourself some good quality inner sleeves. Now I have a whole video about this that I'll put a link in the description below, but to me these are very essential tools that will help, you know, give you additional enjoyment out of the records because they're going to sound better. They're not going to be warped. You're going to be able to appreciate that investment a little bit longer. And quite frankly, it'll hopefully help you reduce from warpage, which is also great. And that does lead me to one last tip. When you do put them on your bookshelf or your Calyx shelf or wherever you decide to store your records vertically, don't cram them in. Give them a little bit of breathing wiggle room. If you crush them together, that can also cause warping, and you can also damage the jackets. So don't do that either. Give them a little bit of room. They want to feel free when they're on the shelves. You want to be able to go in and almost with two fingers grab a record easily, or be able to slide them in and out easily. If you play around with your shelf at home, if you're pretty packed in tight, you'll know when it seems like a good way, like a good amount of records per shelf. You just know. If you can go in, grab a record easily and put a record back easily, but yet there's still a lot of records on there, you're probably okay. But if you have to force it every time or you're jamming it in, that's not a place you want to be. Your records don't want to be that tight. You don't want to be cramped. Imagine going in an elevator filled with people crushing you in the back of the elevator. You don't want that experience. You don't know where these people been. You don't want that. Neither does your records. They want to be crammed up. They're okay to stand next to their friends and their buddies, but man, they don't want to be crammed together. It's never fun for anyone. Okay, tip number 4 is an invest in good inner sleeves. We talked about this a moment ago, but I do want to stress it as a separate topic. Paper sleeves, a lot of these sleeves that can come with your records can honestly just scratch your vinyl over time. I really do recommend investing in anti-static polyline inner sleeves to keep your records in pristine condition. I have my favorites that I've been using for a long time. I buy them from Amazon. They're fairly inexpensive. I'll throw a link down in the description below of the exact ones that I use. Tip number 5 is to check the pressings. Learn to read those run out grooves. That is the text with the random numbers and letters that are the inside, right around the label between where your last track ends and when your label begins. Inside that dead space, that dead wax, you have some cryptic numbers, matrix numbers that tell you everything you need to know about that album. All you need is a decoder. And you can get one from Discogs. You go to discogs.com, you can type in those numbers, and it's going to tell you everything you need to know about that exact pressing. It's going to tell you where it was pressed. It'll tell you who was mastered by. It'll tell you what year it came out. It gives you a wealth of information, and it's fun to start learning where your records come from. But the other reason why it's important to learn about these numbers and to check the pressings is because arguably certain records do sound better depending on how they're mastered, depending on where they're pressed, depending on what label produced it. So they're all important key aspects, and when you really start getting into kind of logging and reading and understanding and sort of like processing that information, now you're armed with knowledge. And this is one of the key things about it, knowledge. When you are armed with the knowledge and you know, hey, this pressing plan is a good pressing plan for me. Those records sound great on my turntable, or I really like this mastering engineer. I really like anything that, you know, say Ryan Smith or Kevin Gray or Bernie Grubman puts out. You start learning what's going on with the actual records themselves. So when you're out hunting, you know what to look for when you're shopping for new records. And I'll give you an example. On here, there's a little sticker that tells me some details. It tells me that it was recorded from the original master tapes. It was mastered by Kevin Gray, who's a fantastic mastering engineer. And it was pressed at RTI, which is a great pressing plant. So if I'm shopping for new records at my store, I know already that this album is going to be a great sounding album because of the way it was mastered, etc. But you can start learning those trends and learning what sounds good for you by learning to read those matrix numbers. Therefore, when you're out hunting, you're going to get the best sounding version of your favorite album. Okay, tip number 6 is get a proper turntable setup. Your turntable setup matters. It matters. It matters. You want to make sure your tone arm is balanced, that your stylus is clean, that your cartridge is aligned correctly. A poorly set up turntable can not only damage your records, but it can also make them sound horrible. You'll be so surprised on how much difference, audible difference there is when you have everything just what we call dialed in, where you have everything set up and configured correctly. Your records sound so much better. Some of that sibilance or distortion or things that you get from your records today could be because quite frankly, your turntable might not be set up properly. But when you take the time and you invest in some tools to properly set up and align your cartridge and take the time to do the research to learn how to do it, you're going to enjoy this hobby a lot more. You're going to be deeper connected to the hardware and a turntable experience, and you're going to be able to troubleshoot sound issues a lot better. Anytime I get distortion or something on a record or something just seems off, the first thing I do is just check the calibrations of things. I check to make sure that that my anti-skate is set correctly, that the weight of the tone arm is fine, nobody bumped the weight, etc. So it's important to make sure that things are dialed in. And I think if you do that, you're not only going to extend the life of your records because you're not going to be wearing them out with improper settings, but you're also going to extend your enjoyment of listening to records. Okay, tip number 7, which might be a sore spot for some folks, but please don't take it personal. I'm just trying to share some advice from my own experience. And that is to avoid cheap turntables, especially the ones that are all integrated, built-in speakers, Bluetooth, etc. Yes, I know they're attractive. Yes, a lot of people buy them, especially when you're just starting out because they're super convenient and you're thinking to yourself, why would I pay $200 for a turntable and then have to spend another X amount of dollars on a preamp and X amount of dollars on a speaker when I can get all of that for $199? Well, there's a reason it's $199, folks. It means that you're not really getting good quality across any of those. And in some of them, honestly, they're lacking the right calibration settings or using really cheap materials that could damage or cause harm to your records due to their poor quality components. The sound quality also is not that great on a lot of those. I tried to equate it to an all-in-one printer. An all-in-one printer is very functional, and it's a bundle, right? You're getting a lot of things. You're getting a fax machine. It can email you. It can scan. It can make copies. It can do prints. But it doesn't really do any of those exceptionally well. It just does them, right? Think about it. When was the last time you printed a photo quality print from an all-in-one? When was the last time that you scanned from your all-in-one and you had this high-resolution image? Those things independently exist, but they don't exist in an all-in-one printer. And all-in-one turntables are the same. The only difference is that it eats the paper, right? In the case of the analogy, right? It's going to destroy those records over time. Yeah, I mean, I've looked at some of these that have really, you look at the stylus on some of these and they have really, really short stylus lives, like unbelievably short, enough for you basically just to get started. But people don't end up just getting started. They end up playing them and playing them and playing them, and then they wear down their records and they have tons of issues. They have tons of skipping issues. They have records that don't sound that well. They just don't enjoy the experience that much. Get yourself a really decent turntable, and if you're still in a budget, you can still make it happen. I worked on a video with a friend of mine from Australia. His name is Daniel. We call him Nigiru, and we put together this chat. It was just him and I late at night. We recorded a conversation, and we talked all about what is the right budget turntable. And we get into people who just have a couple $100 to spend all the way up to $1,000+, and what options are available. And let me tell you, you can build a really nice turntable setup for less than $500. It's all in that video. I'll put it in the comments below. But listen, if you're serious about collecting, if you're serious about listening to records, if this is a hobby you like, it is worth investing into a decent turntable that's going to take care of your vinyl. Tip number 8 is know the value of your records. It is important to know the value of your records, even though earlier I said you shouldn't get caught up on how much a record grows or is worth after you buy it. But it is important to know the value of your records. I'm going to explain to you a couple reasons why. For early on, you're in your vinyl collecting journey, taking the time to look up and understand what records are really worth can give you the knowledge, will arm you with the knowledge that when you're out there in the wild at a record store, at a record fair, or you're doing some crate digging, to have a sense of what things are really worth. I can walk into a record store, browse a couple albums, and know if they're priced fairly or not because I've been able to study what some of my own records are worth, and I have a sense of what pressings are cost, or what at least their value are. I can walk in and say, yep, this store is priced on the higher side, or this one's actually pretty much a bargain, based on existing knowledge, and that existing knowledge comes from learning and seeing what records are worth in my collection over time. So when you see certain records are part of the same series or the same value, it really does help arm you with a lot of knowledge. The other part of this is, as your collection starts growing, you may want to start considering if it's worth talking to your insurance company about getting insured. Now, I'm not saying somebody's going to back up a U-Haul and steal your whole collection underneath your nose, but things happen, accidents happen, and God forbid if your family or your house experiences a fire, or if your shelving unit decides it's going to collapse and everything on it breaks, having good insurance could actually help in a lot of cases, depending on what it's going to cost to replace your collection. Now, that's a separate video all in itself on what it takes to insure records and the process that you have to undergo. But I really do like knowing what my collection's worth, not because I plan on selling it, but because when I'm buying, it helps educate me with knowledge to know that I'm not basically being taken when somebody is offering a high value or something. You just start getting that sense. You start sensing something's not right here. This is not really what it's worth. And you get that knowledge by the feel of the environment based on what things really should cost. Okay, tip number 9 is to explore record fairs, record stores, and I will even say consignment shops. You gotta get out there, get off of the internet, and just go get plugged into your local community. First off, I highly recommend you build a relationship with your local record store. You have no idea, if you haven't done this, you have no idea what you're missing out. Okay, I know that it could be convenient to go to the big box store to get the latest albums, etc. I go out of my way. It's nearly 40 minutes for me to go to a local record store that I have a fantastic relationship with, because they take care of me. If I want to pre-order something, they pre-order it. I just pay the next time I see them. They know the type of music I collect. They know what some of my grails are. They know the type of quality of records I'm looking for. And I will get texts of pictures of records that have come in that they'll put to the side for me and hold for me to come in and take a look at them firsthand. This is what happens when you have a record store as your friend and you're able to build a relationship over time. It takes time. Don't expect to go there one day or your second or third trip and have this type of relationship. But over time, you continue to support them, they'll start supporting you, and now you have not only yourself looking out for records that you're on a hunt for, but you actually have a whole store kind of looking out for you, which is really, really cool. Plus, you get plugged into some of your community. I have had friendly conversations countless times at record stores where they're the only time I see folks. The only time I see these people are at record store. But I know about their kids. I know about the music they like. I know about where they're going on holiday. I know all of that stuff just because of frequent my record store. So if you feel you're out there and you're alone in collecting records, you can turn to your local record store to make those connections. Don't be shy. Get out there and get plugged in. Now, as far as record fairs go, I love them. I absolutely love them because you usually get collectors from all walks of life come in with so many unique things that it's just hard to ever find at your local stores. Here, living in North Carolina, there tends to be a certain vibe here. It's really hard to get, say, like 90s hip hop records here. But when there's a record fair, I can usually find some, which really excites me. And that's just one example out of many that I could share with you. My last one is consignment shops. I'm seeing an uptick of consignment shops, including records inside of them. And what I'm finding, based on having conversations with these folks, is that a lot of them are people that have collections that are getting older and looking to part ways with them, and instead of dealing with the hassle of the internet, because some folks, maybe the older generation, I'm not poking fun, but I'm thinking of my family when I say this, but they don't want to deal with the hassle of eBay or looking up every matrix number to sell their record. And they sure don't want to part with it just going to a record store and only getting probably a third of what it's worth. So they set up a consignment shop. It gives them something to do, allows them to manage something and have something to do, but it's not all just older people. There's younger people out there as well that are trying to start up, and their goal is to maybe have a record store one day. But where I'm getting at is that you're starting to see some unique things that you can only find at consignment shops that tend to be different tastes or styles of music that these folks collect that you're just not going to get at your local store. So I like looking at all three of those, and of course I shop online as well, but I definitely am a huge advocate of attending your local record fairs, your local record stores, and browsing some consignment shops on the weekends, etc. In fact, it's a great little weekend getaway, date night with my wife. She gets to go browse all the handmade, handcrafted stuff or the antique stuff that are inside of the stores, and I get to browse some records, and we both walk away happy. Okay, number 10, this is the final one, but before I get there, I just want to thank you for sticking with me so far. I've given you 9 great tips. I hope you liked them. Leave a comment below what your favorite tip is so far. Now, I promise you this last tip, number 10, was going to be a game changer, and I really, really do mean it, and I believe this tip applies no matter where you are in your vinyl collecting journey. Whether you're a seasoned collector or you're just getting started out, to me, this is the number 1 tip that can change it all, and is something that honestly it took me a while to get in this game, and that is enjoy the experience. Don't forget while you're out there to enjoy the experience. It's kind of like stop and smell the roses. Record collecting is more about just owning music. It's about the ritual of opening a record, hearing the warmth, analog sound, and appreciating the album art. It's going through the details of the pressing. It's looking at those matrix numbers that we talked about earlier and learning where that record came from. If you watch any of my unboxing videos, I'm super excited opening up a new record, even though I have well over 3,000 records in my collection, because I still love the experience. To me, it's still a cherished moment every time I add a new record to this collection. And I think that life anymore, we're so plugged in. We have everything asking and demanding our attention. We have tons of things yelling and screaming at us. We have TV, social media, people, work, jobs demanding life, that when you can put yourself in a happy space, you can pull your favorite record off the shelf, you pull it out of the outer sleeve, you take the record from the sleeve and you pull it out from the inner and you put it on the turntable and you drop that needle and you sit back in your chair and you have the artwork in the hand, coffee in the other. That's my definition of R&R. That's my definition of heaven. I mean, that's my happy place. That is where I love to escape and just being disconnected. Don't browse your phone. Don't go on the internet. Just enjoy the music. Enjoy being surrounded by something you love, and take that moment for yourself. You will love it. You'll appreciate the music more. You'll learn some things. You'll start building that book of knowledge. And quite frankly, when you're out there vinyl hunting, you're going to love this experience a lot more, and you're going to be excited to take those new records home. Well, folks, that's it. That are my 10 essential tips for vinyl collectors. I hope that you found this helpful. Again, these are things that I wish somebody would have sat down and shared with me when I first started out. Now, I know a lot of these are basic, and you're probably thinking, man, It really wasn't anything that was life-changing in here, but sometimes we need somebody to tell us what we need to hear. And I hope that that's what you got from here today. If it was helpful, be sure to hit that like button, and I'm gonna see you on the next video.